Okay, crisis averted. The girls have been released, and we are ready to continue on for the rest of the walk. As soon as I get my glove on, perfect. Okay, let's go. This way, girls. We're going to the bridge, normal route. Okay, so as I was saying, um, I just can't understand how philosophers can think that they can come to an answer, basically, to ethics or to the moral dilemmas. I the two the examples that I would use to illustrate why I think that position is absurd is, imagine there are two people left on the planet. Two people, who can reproduce and blah blah blah, or let's say there's six people. Okay, it doesn't really matter. The point is that these people, the choices that they might have to make, if will be completely different from the correct moral and ethical choices that a society that has 20 billion people on earth at an industrial level of technology would have, right? What is good, and even if you boil it down to something as basic as always act towards the survival or the increase of the population. Well, then that works in one situation, but it's antithesis to the other. Oh, sorry, I mispronounced that word very badly. But it's that's not the word I wanted to use. I should have said anathema or something like that. Anyway, point is that acquiring more resources than the group next to you works in some circumstances, but it's detrimental in others. It all comes back to, again, or what I was saying yesterday. Something that's good for an in-group may be bad for the out-group. Why is it moral for you to do something that's good for your in-group when from the perspective of the out-group, it's something that's bad for them? And then morally, that's something that's bad, or the result at least is bad. So you can't say that there is a arbitrary good, as there'll be good for one side but not for the other. Now, take into consideration the fact that you also have to evaluate repercussions over time, right? It's not just instant. And people who were one day out of your, or part of your out group, may someday become part of your in group, or vice versa. And then what happens, right? Are you gonna go back and temporarily justify these decisions, which were quote unquote ethically correct for your group? If, let's say, again, it's not that principle of you always want to propagate, multiply, and benefit your in group, and whether that in group is, as I said yesterday, yourself, your family, your society, your country, or even the human race as a whole, right? You can even go further, right? I think eventually I hope that one day, not only, like I said, increase my in-group considerations to others around us, and maybe also we can extend our consideration of in-group to non-human beings like animals or plants or the earth or the solar system. Anyway, that's going way too far down the road. My point is that any simple principle can work in some circumstances, but I can't think of a single moral principle that can be applied universally and that will always be, good. Now, you may separate the result or the consequence from the act and say, hey, even if the act, again, a principle that what I should do is benefit my in-group and my society and this and that, you could say, hey, morally, this action that I'm going to encourage does do that, or the intent was to do that. The result is that it didn't because something went wrong. Sorry, I kind of lost my point of thought there. I got distracted by the dog. Let me try to regroup here. Anyway, a lot of this comes from Nietzsche, or at least what shaped my way of thinking about this comes from Nietzsche, because at some point it was true that for the Romans at least, virtue, things like compassion were considered bad, and things that were considered good were strength and honor and things like that. And now our Christian morality is completely different. Now, I doubt that anyone would argue against the Roman Empire being a great thing, one of the most expansive, they brought technology, innovation, blah, 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 right? I don't think anyone would argue that the Roman Empire was bad. Yet, that is also true for, let's say, other modern, contemporary or Christian empires, right? That's obviously arguable. Obviously, every coin has two sides, and there's always bad that comes with the good. But overall, I think that means that the modern Christian states have brought so much of revolution, starting from the Renaissance, and a lot of it was good overall, the results, right? How many more people can be fed, how many people learn it, etc., because of this, right? So here you have two completely conflicting sets of morals and ideals that both led to empires that I would argue did much good. There was also other examples of Christian empires and this and that did bad, but that's not the point that I'm trying to make. That's the point that I'm trying to make is you can expand that even further and look at, Confucian philosophy, Shintoism, and all the other ways of looking at the world and other philosophies that you find in the East, or even in the Middle East. Whether you consider their philosophies to be progressive or regressive, especially when it comes to, I'll be blunt, like more Muslim-type countries, right, where women do not have the same rights as men and all that type of stuff, right? Regardless of your opinion, the point is that so many tenable moral solutions have been fielded in the real world and have actually worked out. How can we say that there is only one rule? Are we real? The world would not be what it is had the Roman Empire shared the same the same values as we do today. The world would be very different, right? But does that mean, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Does that mean that the Romans were wrong and evil, even because they disagreed with a certain moral code? And I'm not offending anyone. I want to be clear. I'm talking about, Christian and blah, blah, blah right now. I was raised Catholic. I do not identify as such. I identify as agnostic. I will go on my parade as to why I think even atheists are wrong, and the way to go is agnosticism, but that's a talk for another day. I just wanted to say I'm using that as a modern frame of reference. But really, what I'm trying to say is that whatever answer someone comes up with in any circumstance, or any society comes up with in any circumstance, will always be driven by their current reality. Do they live in a technological age? Do they live where they have resource abundance, or in a time of scarcity? They have too many people, not enough people. How did they get there? How were they formed, right? Are they, a people that separated out from a previous empire, oppressors, or maybe they were the oppressors who now have been humbled, right? There's so many possibilities, and I don't think that the answer of what is morally right or just that comes up in any one of these societies could necessarily be applied to any one of these other societies. And if that's the case, how can we say that, again, relative morality is not a thing? I think that basically the world today is a result of kind of social or philosophical Darwinism, right? Where the country or group that had the most might was able to impose its philosophy and way of seeing the world onto those who had less might, and shape the way morality evolved on the planet. And Darwinism is a game of pure luck, pure chance. And a philosophy or morality or culture that failed 200 years ago or 2,000 years ago because it just happened to pop up next to the Greeks and weren't able to resist the Greeks taking them over, or the influence of the Greeks, even if they weren't taking them over, right? The might can also be just through trade and influence, right? Not necessarily military. But hey, what is that? Maybe the best quote-unquote philosophy popped up back then and just got wiped out, and we'll never know it. Which is why I think that there is no best philosophy. There is a best for the people, for the time, for the circumstances philosophy and way of acting. But to universalize our circumstances and limitation to the entirety of the experience of all of mankind and beyond throughout history, because if ethics apply to humans, why shouldn't they apply to animals or to aliens, right? So if it's universal, it needs to be universal. You can't drift. That's really what I believe, or I don't understand why philosophers think that moral relativism is not a thing. Explain this to me, please, someone. I'm begging you. Thank you, and good night.